Was he ever that guy that was always like the most sought after throughout his career, throughout the years? Was he? Really? Was he? I can argue it. What up, YouTube family and folks? This is Kevin's perspective, the perspective that keeps on giving. Like, share, subscribe to the channel. Let's get down to the nitty gritty. You see the title. Was Jay-Z ever the hottest rapper in the game? Kevin, what are you talking about? That sounds crazy. That sounds blasphemous, as Stephen A. Smith would say. But let's question it. Let's talk about it, man. Was he ever the hottest? So what is the hottest? What do you mean by that? The hottest rapper or the hottest period in the game is the person who is the most in demand, the one who is the most sought after, the household name, the one who is the most popular. That is the hottest rapper in the game. Was Jay ever really that? Now, we already know he's the GOAT. To me, he's the GOAT. You could argue Eminem. You know, some people can argue it. Some people choose not to, but I would argue it because Eminem hits all the boxes. He checks all the boxes. But Jay is the GOAT. All right. So this is not a slight to Jay or his career or where he's at. He is the creme de la creme, homie. But throughout his career, was he ever that guy that was always like the most sought after throughout his career, throughout the years? Was he? Really? Was he? I can argue it. But let's talk about it. Let's go to 1996 and 97. Now, we're not going to really get too much into the early career, his early part of the career, because obviously he wasn't the hottest then. I mean, you still had Pac, you still had Biggie, you had Mace dancing in the videos. Mace was on top at one point. So I'm not going to get too much into those years. Even though you have Reasonable Doubt in my lifetime, they weren't really making noise like that. Not from where I was from. I'm from VA. VA, two up, two down, baby. But it wasn't really like that. He wasn't a household name. So let's go to 1998. 98, 99. Man, those were some good years. I'm sitting here thinking about it now. Man, there was some good music back then, like for real. But those 2 years, DMX was the guy. DMX was that dude in 98 and 99. He was on a straight run. 3 albums straight. So Jay, even though they were on tour, they was on tour together. You know, you had the Hard Knock Life tour and all that stuff. But Rough Rider, whatever tour it was, DMX was the headliner. So Jay was there, but he wasn't there. DMX was out there. He was that guy, man. You youngins that might be watching this might not know that, but DMX was the most popular rapper in the world at that time. So then you had people like Eminem was coming up. You know, he was coming up. Dr. Dre had 2000, Chronic 2001. That was banging. That was very successful. Even Juvenile, like, yo, we got to stop and think about Juvenile for a second. Even at that time, Juvenile was throwing out some hits. That's why Jay got on that remix. He was throwing out some hits, man. 400 Degrees was a classic. But it was DMX time, man. It was DMX. You had Lauryn Hill, of course. Like, listen to the names that he had to compete with. Like, he even said himself, he had a lot of people to compete with, man. You had Outkast. It was just a lot at that time. So Jay was top 10, but he wasn't at the complete top. It was too many people. So we passed 99. Let's go to 2000 and 2001. I'm trying to do these 2 years at a time, so it won't be like every single year. But 2000, 2001, Eminem takes the crown. Eminem is the dude. He is that guy. Marshall Mathers LP was out this world. It took him out this world as far as popularity, as far as lyricism, everything. Eminem was at the top. DMX fell off by that point. He had a lot going on, and Eminem took the baton and he started to carry it. Jay-Z, of course, was still there. He had the Blueprint album in 2001. He had his beef with Nas, which put him in the limelight even more, but not in the best way. Blueprint, of course, was one of his best albums, probably his best album to that date at that time. And he had to deal with Ether. Oh, man. If it was only just Takeover, it would have been fine. He would have been the guy. But Ether, man, that wasn't too well. But before we even get to that, you still had Nelly. Nelly was blowing up. Nelly was going diamond. So you had Eminem, Nelly, M, Pimp Juice, and Us, as Jay would say. But at that time, Jay was still not the number one guy, but he was the number one target. Nas nipped a lot of stuff in the bud for him, but let's go into even Bow Wow. Bow Wow. I remember, man, Bow Wow was one of the, he was selling out arenas, bro. Bow Wow was selling out arenas, man. It is crazy. So yeah, Jay wasn't the hottest rapper at that time. But let's go into 2002. Jay was coming off the cuffs of Ether, and even though he had Blueprint 2, it wasn't really popping like that. But as Jay went down, Ja Rule went up. Put it on me. That was Ja. He was all over. I'm real. Like the summer was lit with Ja Rule, man. Ja Rule took the crown. You still had Nelly. You still, Nellyville. You still had Eminem. The Eminem show. So those were the main three. They were the top three: Eminem, Nelly, Ja Rule. Jay was trying to figure out what to do next. We're going into 2003. And then here comes 50 Cent. 50 Cent, damn, homie. In high school, you was a man, homie. Like 50 came through and crushed the buildings in 2003. Literally, like ask Ja Rule. He crushed the building. So then 50 was the hottest dude in the game, man. 2003 was his year. That was his year, man. Even though the Black Album came out, which to me was his best album. That's just my opinion. Black Album was Jay's best album. Argue me on that. But we'll talk about that in a different. I'm gonna talk about why. You know what? I'm gonna talk about why it was his best album to me. Like that was my favorite album from Jay. But 2003, it was 50 Cent time, man. 2004, he retired. He was out. So it wasn't Jay was, becoming the president and all this other stuff. But it didn't matter because Mr. West is in the building. Wake up, Mr. West. He was in the building now. From late registration to graduation, even though College Dropout was still fire, late registration to graduation, Kanye was on a run. He had the game. He was on the top at that point. 50 was too busy beefing with people, so Kanye took the stage. So now we're in 2000 and what? 5 now? 2006? No, 2007. This is how far we're going. Jay came back with Kingdom Come. Wasn't great. Came back with American Gangster. It was straight. It was coming off the cuffs of the American Gangster movie. It was straight. But Kanye had it. And here comes the South. Here comes T.I. coming off the Urban Legend album into the King album. ATL. ATL is blowing up. ATL was already blowing up a little bit in the early 2000s, but here comes T.I. and the entire ATL movement, right? So at that time, T.I. was one of the hottest dudes in the game. It was Kanye, it was T.I. Wayne was coming up. He had his Carter albums and everything, but um, Wayne came a little bit later as far as blowing up, like in 2008, maybe 2008. I mean, because you had Jeezy still, you had Ross that was coming up, hustling the boss. Ross was becoming one of them the hottest dudes in the game. Lil Wayne coming out around 2007, 2008. Lil Wayne took over. Took over. Jay was doing what Jay do. He wasn't really like active like that, but Wayne was. Wayne was active. And at the time when Lil Wayne was the hottest, he had that song Lollipop, Lick, 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 Lick. I could not stand that song. Am I the only one who hated that song? Like, when I first heard it, because, I was a fan of Lil Wayne from the Block is Hot, Hot Boys days. And when I first heard that song, it was, ugh, I couldn't stand that song. But the clubs loved it. So here we are. So Wayne took over the entire rap game. And he was the hottest. Like, this is around, like I said, 2007, 2008, going into 2009. Now, 2009 hit. Here comes Blueprint 3. Death to Auto-Tune. Empire State of Mind. This is probably the one year you can argue that Jay was the hottest dude in the game. But it's still an argument because Wayne was still the hottest dude in the game. And on top of that, here comes this little Degrassi guy, this Aubrey dude from Canada. He's coming up. So Jay has number one singles, but people still look for Lil Wayne. So it can be, there can be this one year where Jay might actually be ahead to say, hey, Jay was that dude, the household name, especially with Empire State of Mind. Man, that was a number one single. People love that song. Good Day, Good Morning America. He was all over the place. But after that, that was it. Like, I'm not even gonna go into 2010 on too much because it was kind of obvious at that point. 2010, Drake came out. It was a wrap. Even Eminem with the Recovery album, Eminem came and shut it down with the Recovery album that year. So, and you had Kanye, man. 2010 was a good year, man. You had Recovery, you had Drake came out, you had Dark Twisted Fantasy from Kanye. It was a good year. Anyway, it doesn't matter because Jay wasn't the hottest. So from then on, it's kind of obvious that Drake carried the crown for a while. For the next decade, really. I mean, you had Nicki, you still had Kendrick, you still had Future. Like, when it came to hottest in the game, it interchangeably or interchanged or whatever the word is. Either way, it wasn't Jay. 444 album came out that year. I think it was 2017. 444 came out off the cuffs, even of the Beyonce album, and Jay was talked about, but also the same another album came out that year. Damn, Kendrick Lamar. That album came out. That put Kendrick on top. That album put Kendrick on top again. So y'all tell me. We can go back, I guess, and even thinking about 2009, 2010 was Jay the hottest. Or you might have a different opinion and view on that, man. I mean, to me, this isn't a slight to Jay's career at all. This ain't a shot, nothing like that. I was just sitting back thinking, like, man, was Jay ever the hottest dude in the game? Like, it was just a question. So I just wanted to ask. And I went down the line. So y'all talk to me down below. Tell me what you think. Was Jay ever the hottest in the game at one point, the most popular. How did he influence you? Where were you at? Where were you at when Hard Knock Life dropped? You know what I mean? Where were you at? Hit me up down below. Peace out.